What is up, guys? Thanks for watching another Jaguars United video breakdown. So today we're breaking down like what the three things the Jags need to do to beat the Colts. So if they do these three things, guaranteed win. But before we get to the video and the film, make sure to follow the Twitter, follow the Instagram. I've been better about Instagram, so go follow the Instagram. And then obviously subscribe to the YouTube channel. We do live shows all the time, and live shows are fun. They're fan interactive. I let all the comments get read. I read them all. So it's definitely a fan channel and fan interactive. So if you like watching and talking about the Jags, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel. All right, without further ado, let's jump into the three things the Jags have to do to win against the Colts this week. So the first thing you have to do if you're going to beat the Colts is you have to stop Jonathan Taylor. That's duh, right? At 31 carries last week against the Texans, they were feeding him the ball. He also got 4 pass targets. That puts him at 35 touches. I mean, that's a lot of usage for one guy in a game. Honestly, that's probably too much usage. A guy like Frank Reich is going to come back week 2 and try to do something different. You cannot give Jonathan Taylor 35 touches a week. He's going to end up like Christian McCaffrey. So, although I think you're going to see a decreased workload for Jonathan Taylor this week against the Jags. Not to mention the Jags front 7 is tremendously better than the Texans front 7. It's just not healthy for Jonathan Taylor to get those many touches, and you still are going to have to stop him to win this game. So my next point, it talks about Rivers and Michael Pittman, but Jonathan Taylor is number 1, right? So at 161 yards, they force-fed him, and he did produce. Now, they didn't win the game. They tied the game, but probably the kicker's fault more than Jonathan Taylor's fault. 69 PFF grade. But it was interesting if you like delve through the numbers about Jonathan Taylor. And only one play that he was in the game did he pass block. So he either ran the ball or released for a route, which makes sense for a guy like Jonathan Taylor. But if you're at such a small usage of pass blocking as 1, that keys the defense for any time that Jonathan Taylor is in the game. You have to have someone accounting for him in some way, shape, or form. Like, if you have a linebacker that's like, you're accounting for Jonathan Taylor, if he sits back and pass blocks, you blitz. Every time else, you guard him. That's what you want to do as a coach. And I think that's what the Jags will do. And they will probably assign one of these speed guys like Devin Lloyd to him. So now we're looking at a matchup, one of these speed linebackers, probably Devin Lloyd, against Jonathan Taylor. And I'm pretty excited about that. You know, Jonathan Taylor's going to get his. But if you look back in 2022 in January when the Jags beat the Colts to ruin the Colts' playoff hopes last season, they held Jonathan Taylor to 77 yards. So they can do it. And that defense was not as good as this year's defense. The offensive line for the Colts is interesting to look at. Like, the left side is clearly better. Quentin Nelson, one of the best players in the NFL with an 82 PFF grade. And then Matt Pryor, who was injured. I'm not sure what the deal with Matt Pryor is. He might be injured, but I think they had Bernard Raymond came in and played decent as well. Like, that left side of their line is like better, but they ran the ball to the right way more times against Houston. So that kind of threw me off. Okay, so they ran to the left 11 times. They ran to the right 22 times. So they ran to the right double the amount of times they ran to the left. And right tackle Braden Smith and right guard Danny Pinter were some of the 2 lowest rated players on the Colts, like per PFF. So you got to think you're going to see a lot of Jonathan Taylor ran to the right this time. So listen, they're probably going to load up the strong side. So you're probably going to have a guy like Travon Walker who's going to be real involved in that. This is where Fatu Kasi is really going to have to earn his money. He had a great stop in the red zone last week against the Commanders. Roy Robertson-Harris, this is a chance for him to kind of shine. Dwan Smoot, I mean, he'll be there on passing downs, but you could see him there on third downs as well, in earlier downs. Adam Gotsis, a guy that a lot of people like. We'll see. He's kind of more suits the defense as a run stopper. So you might see a little bit more of Adam Gotsis this week. So got to solidify that defensive line. Got to do something to stop him or he's going to burn you. I mean, I like the way Marcus Brady, the offensive coordinator, he had a good mix of pass to run last week. So we'll see. I'm a big Kevin Mawai fan. If you remember him, he's an offensive line coach for the Colts. One thing you don't have to worry about is Nyheim Hines only getting 3 carries for 4 yards. He's obviously much more of a passing back. But stopping Jonathan Taylor is going to be it. I think the Jags are going to be able to do that, and I don't think they'll struggle there. I think they'll win that matchup. So for my first key point for the Jags, they got to stop Jonathan Taylor, and I think they will. So as I alluded to earlier, the second most important point is going to be definitely getting pressure on Matt Ryan and being able to cover and defend Michael Pittman. I know those are two different things, but they're kind of go together. Like I know Matt Ryan had good yardage last week, 350 plus yards, 32 completions. Like that looks good on paper, but I watched the game and I never felt like Matt Ryan was in control of the game. I mean, he threw an interception. He had 4 fumbles. I mean, he only lost one of them, and 2 of them were like center quarterback exchanges. But a 48.2 QBR, an 83 passer rating, a 61 passer PFF grade. Like, don't look at the stats. Like, his game was not that good. And he really had to rely on Michael Pittman for anything to move the ball offensive-wise that wasn't Jonathan Taylor. So I think with the corners that we have and the pressure we can get on him will be enough to handle Matt Ryan. But, I mean, especially because, like, the way he throws under pressure. Like, I mean, anyone throws poor under pressure unless you're Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes. But pressure, I think we can get that. Like I talked about the O-line earlier. I'm not too worried about their right side or their center too much. Michael Pittman, though, is another story. Now, Michael Pittman, 9 receptions, 122 yards, 13.4 yards per reception. He got targeted 13 times, so you know that they're going to target him. In 2021, we held him to 64 yards and 1 touchdown. I know he's probably gotten better since then, but had definitely a good game against Houston. He lined up in the slot 9 times and 46 times lined out wide. And here's why that concerns me, because I didn't see the Jags do a good job of using Tyson Campbell to shadow number 1 receivers. Like, I would have liked to seen Tyson Campbell shadow Terry McLaurin, but we saw him matched up one-on-one with Shaq Griffin. So that was probably going to happen in this game against the Colts. And can Shaq Griffin cover Michael Pittman? Can Darius Williams, our lowest graded player last year, can he cover Michael Pittman if he lines up in the slot? So that's where I get a little concerned. Like, I think if they can get the ball to him, we might be in trouble, especially because we exhibited poor tackling. But to be fair, and this is my caveat here, I do think that our corners of Tyson Campbell, Darius Williams, Shaq Griffin, I think those are better than guys like Steven Nelson, Derek Stingley, who I thought played great, by the way. I mean, Derek Stingley played great. Desmond King, Grieger Hill. Like, I think the Jags DBs are a lot better than Houston's DBs, and so that may give us a chance to cover Pittman and not allow him to go off. Hopefully, like we did 2021. But if we're gonna win this game, we're gonna have to pressure Matt Ryan and cover Michael Pittman. I think we'll cover Matt Ryan, but I'm a little worried about covering Michael Pittman. And the last key to victory is the Jags have to execute on offense. And again, another thing that you guys are like, duh, these are obvious points, but I bring them up because of what I saw in the Texans and the Colts game. The Texans looked a lot like the Jags did last week. Like, they moved the ball, then they got to the red zone, and they either turned it over or they kicked a field goal. And that led to them only scoring 20 points. So the Jags are in a very similar situation. So what I'm saying is, like, the Jags have to execute. Like, that's the key to beating the Colts, because the Colts have great coaches. Gus Bradley, defensive coordinator. Say what you want about him. I like Gus Bradley. John Fox, former Panthers head coach, is a senior defensive assistant. Like, not to mention that, you know, the Colts head coach, Frank Reich, has always prioritized defense in the draft. So that's a lot bigger thing than people think. And although the coaching staff is good, the talent on the team, I don't necessarily think is as good as we thought preseason. Obviously, having Darius Leonard out is huge. Kwity Paye has definitely stepped in the role, had 2 sacks last week, a 77 PFF grade, and that was really only a 77 PFF grade because basically he had 4 attempts. This is how PFF works. This is why some people don't like it. He had 4 attempts at tackles, and he missed one horribly, like missed tackle. So that gave him a 25% missed tackle rate, which brought his PFF grade down. And I know what you're saying is like, that makes no sense. You're right. But if you're evaluating a linebacker who is going to have like 20 attempts at tackles, that stat and percentage probably does help you factor in. Regardless, Stephen Gilmore, good defensive back. EJ Speed played pretty well from the edge. Zaire Franklin had a lot of tackles, 8 tackles. Yannick Ngakoue, right? A guy who used to play for the Jags is now playing in the AFC South. 71.6 PFF grade. Not great. Actually, I'm sorry. He had the third worst PFF grade. He had a 46 PFF grade. So the third worst PFF grade on the team. Not necessarily something that he's probably proud of. Only 2 tackles. He actually had a late hit, a 15-yard penalty because he hit the quarterback late. So didn't have a great game. Obviously, he's going to have the revenge factor going this week. I think that's going to probably be a catalyst for him to outplay what he usually does. DeForest Buckner's a good player. Only had 4 tackles. Kenny Moore's a good player too. So, I mean, they have decent players, but I would take our defense over their defense any day of the week. So the third point, Jags have to execute. They have to. Davis Mills, only 2 touchdowns. Rex Burkhead, only 40 yards. Damian Pierce, only 33 yards. We could easily replicate that with our offense because that rushing game was pretty weak against the Colts. Our rushing game is going to be way better than that with James Robinson and Travis Etienne. The receiver game, though, Brandon Cooks, 7 receptions, 82 yards. O.J. Howard only had 2 receptions, but both receptions were for touchdowns. So the tight ends obviously score against this defense. So maybe this is the week Evan Ingram gets involved. That play that they ran that same play all preseason where they leaked out Evan Ingram out to the left and rolled out to the right and then threw it back to him. Maybe this is the game we see that play where he does that and we see him get a touchdown like he did in the preseason. Maybe Dan Arnold gets involved. Maybe you see a guy, Luke Farrell, hit the field. I don't know, but they did throw it to Rex Burkhead 5 times, so maybe Etienne and Robinson will get their fair share. So I like our offense executing against their defense. So I think we'll be able to accomplish this. So if you take the 3 things that I think have to happen for us to win, stopping Jonathan Taylor, pressuring Matt Ryan and covering Michael Pittman, and the Jags executing on offense, I have a pretty good feeling that we can do the things that we need to do. So I think the Jags win this game. I really do. Now, things could happen between now and the game. Injuries, whatever else could happen. But as of now, I feel good about the Jags. Not to mention the Jags are playing at home, although I do not put as much stock into the streak as everyone else does. But, yeah, got to execute on no. All right, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, guys. I really do. Subscribe to the channel. Follow everything. You know the deal. But honestly, I do appreciate you watching this video. If you liked it, tell a friend. We do shows like this all the time. Make sure to support the channel with a thumbs up. That's all we ask out of you. So I appreciate it. We'll see you guys on the next live show. And until then, go Jags.